Hi everyone, it's Aaliyah from Mama Fox Toys, and I am here to do a tutorial about a face mask. And I'll show you what I've got here. We've got a couple of things. You're gonna need two types of fabric. Cotton is the choice here that I've made, jersey cotton. This is a child size face mask, so this is gonna be for my daughter. The way that I've chosen to do my masks now is to add non-woven fabrics that you find in these totes. So you can see it's composed of these microfibers, which makes it very difficult for the virus to get through. You can see here what it looks like once you open the bag. And I've cut out just a small piece here that I've doubled over. This fabric pattern is going to be linked underneath this video, so you can find it, print it, and then I'm just gonna cut this out now for just a second. Okay, so the pieces are all cut. I doubled that over so you can see there are two. Them together and stitch along this seam here, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. They're together, I'm making sure they're lined up. Back stitch a little just to keep them together. Okay, and back stitch to end the seam too. And then for this part, you can see the seam here. I'm just, because it's a curved edge, I'm just gonna clip a little bit every inch, making sure to not cut the thread, of course. I'll show you right now what that looks like. See how it's curved? And this gives that nice edge. Now, one of the concerns I had was, clearly you've just punctured the fabric and this seam is going right in front of your face. So what I've come up with is a French seam, and all that is you close it. You're gonna basically just do another stitch over top of that. Same thing, like a 1/4 inch, or even you can do less. So here's my pressed seam. I just ironed that down, and then you can kind of tell when I put this together, it just falls right over top of that. No biggie. And of course, we are feeling confident that that seam is nice and closed. Okay, so I'm going to be setting up my second piece of fabric to cut. When you double over a fabric, you want the good side to be facing inside. So you want your pattern to lay this way on the grain, and that way there will be stretch this way but not this way, even though there's a little bit of stretch this way. Okay, so I use my rotary cutter to slice all around here. All I have to do is do another stitch around this rim, this curved edge, and then I'll do that same snipping thing. So now that you've sewn that curved edge, what you're gonna do is pin the end of the long sides down, and you're just gonna do a stitch along here and the same on the other side, because this will actually be the side to finish your mask once you invert it later. Now, this is important. You have to put the good sides together. So the flatter edge on one side, the more curved nose part on the top. And what you're gonna do now, basically sew along the upper rim and sew along the lower rim. So here's my pin mask. A couple tips here. I do a horizontal pin this way because I'm going to be sewing in this direction. And then at this part here, there's just so many layers here, it was really actually difficult to pin. As you go with your sewing machine, you just want to flatten that out as much as you can. So as you can see, it's jersey, so there's stretch here. You can see it kind of moving. And this isn't quite lining up for some reason, so I'm going to reinforce that with another pin. As I sew, I kind of give some tension by pulling back, especially because this is a jersey, and I'm using my other fingers to kind of push it through. Sorry, let me bring this closer to you. And if you're new to sewing, just take your time and know that your best friend is a seam ripper, really. So I kind of stopped short there because I know that this is the only piece of fabric that goes past that, so I don't have to go all the way to the end of it. Now remember, this one was extending past here because of the stretch, so I am actually going to stretch this myself, just with my own finger a little bit. And I'm gonna start about there, same as the other one. All right, so here I have it, folks. The mask in its essential nature is done. Notice I have 3 layers. So my inner layer, my outer layer, my outer layer. So I'm going to flip it, of course, this way. So my inner layer becomes hidden. And again, it doesn't much matter which side is outside, they would both work. Okay, so you have to make sure this seam is out. Pull it tight and pin. Pin all along the whole edge, and you will find a challenging element here, which is this part. This is like a ton of layers right here. And so wherever you can pin, do your best. Again, this is not pushed out all the way, so I'm pushing that out with my finger. Whatever you need to do this. And then the other side the same. Now I'm approaching a ton of fabric and I know it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to help my machine by gently giving tension from my backhand. And I'm trying to flatten out this rim here as I go. So this will be the hardest part right here. So I'm just gonna slow my machine as much as I can, or need to. You can do the same. So I got through it no problem. You want to be sure you're not pulling too hard that it would bend your needle and then break it. Okay, so do the same to the bottom as you just did to the top. Okay, so I've done that seam on the top, the seam on the bottom, and because I know I'm ready to kind of do the finishing touches, I'm gonna go through with my cute little trimmer, thread trimmer here, and just trim all these threads off. Okay, so for this next part, I'm gonna do this 2-inch piece of pipe cleaner, which I didn't cut with my wonderful sewing scissors. Never do that. I used wire cutters. And what I'm going to be doing is putting it right in here on top of the mask where the bridge of the nose would go. The first thing I'm going to do is sew down and then around, and then I'm going to slip it in the side and then close it. So because I have a gray thread on the top and an aqua thread underneath, and this is my aqua side, I flipped over my mask, and it doesn't much matter, right, that I'm sewing on this side because both sides are going to show your thread. So just start it, go down about 1 centimeter, that's probably fine, and then turn it, and you just want to try to make sure all of those seams are lined up, because this is a little tricky with all the bunching. So I'm pulling at the back of the mask to try to flatten it as much as possible, and I'm basically, my eye is just trying to keep this level with this part of the zipper foot. The foot, not a zipper foot, the foot. Ready? Okay, and I'm pulling here to make that tight, and I know I'm going to hit about 6 layers right there. So again, this is just a 2-inch piece, so I'm going to the half. I need to get to here, and I can't close it yet. So I'm thinking flower here, I'm gonna stop here, and I am gonna go back a stitch to just make sure that seam, or that stitch rather, is closed. Next is take this pipe cleaner, you've got an opening here, right? And I'm gonna go in, I'm straightening it as much as I can as I kind of projectile aim it to this hole. Okay, good. The hardest part is getting over that big thick rim of like 4 pieces of fabric, and it's not in yet, so it's gonna take some finagling here. Obviously the nose metal piece on the nose is really important for keeping it close to your face. So I had absolutely no luck on this side. So what I'm gonna do actually is flip it around, because it doesn't really matter which side this metal piece is on at all. Trial and error. I think I got in there. Okay, it finally went past that thicker part, and I can feel the end is right here, and it's kind of lined up there to that. So again, because of my threads, aqua being the lower thread, I'm going to turn this around and just finish this off. So the last step then is to take your elastic, flip it round. This is going to be enclosing this. Now I really like having a continuous piece of elastic for my entire, going around my head, the upper and lower part. So I am going to do that on my daughters, just better adjust, more easy to adjust. Now see how this piece is kind of bothering me as it folds over, so I'm just gonna trim that so that nobody sees it. I'm making this stuff up as I go along. Okay. That's just finesse. Okay, so I know my sewing machine sews this way, so I have to go this way, and I'm gonna be really careful not to sew the elastic, because of course if I did that, it would no longer move. And try not to pull as you go. See how it's puckering? You just want to kind of distribute that pucker throughout here evenly so that you don't have it hang down as it goes. Okay. So once again, I'm now going to do the same on the other side. I want to keep this not twisted or anything as I go here. So the setup of this side is better. You can see this light aqua is under the other. Here, so I don't want that to fold. So, and I know that my machine goes this way. Now you can see there's some weirdness here. Jersey is a little bit hard to work with sometimes, so you may not have this if you get a quilted cotton. Okay, so I'm just trying to be very aware of where that elastic is and not to sew over top of it. If you're having a hard time getting all those threads, all those layers under your needle, start in the middle rather than the end. Now, you've essentially done the whole thing. You have a mask here. The last step is to tie off your elastic, measure it to your head, and of course for aesthetics, trim all these wonderful threads off of here. Let's see. That. The top elastic is good. I have not actually stretched out my elastic and measured yet, because I want to do that while it's on my daughter's face. So I'm going to give myself slack, slip it over her head, and then pull under the lower one, and then tie it in a, you know, fisherman's knot or whatever. You know how that is very easy. And then cut after that. Okay, so we're going to go over your head, over your face, and then I'm going to tighten that knot after. Can you look up a bit? I want to see everywhere. Does that feel okay? Wait, look at me. I don't feel like this is. Does that feel tight on the top?
It doesn't.
Is that better now?